Greetings, everyone. Your cartoonist pal Stan here with another episode of Random Encounters, the show where I use random encounter tables, like the kind you find in tabletop role-playing games, such as Dungeons and Dragons, and together with an electronic die roller and input from folks in the chat room, I create prompts like you do at an improv show. Get a prompts, a who, and a what, a thing, and a place. And I draw them. I do a cartoon of them right here while you're watching for the fun of it. Da 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 da. Yes, doing all this because drawing is fun. It's fun for me. Hopefully, it's fun for you too. And I invite you to grab your own pen and paper, pad, paper, just some loose paper you got lying around, maybe your electronic drawing equipment of choice. I know I'm using an iPad Pro and an Apple Pencil. I'm also using the app Procreate, none of which is sponsored. Nothing in the show is sponsored, but I say that because people want to know what I'm using, and that's what I'm using. So here we go. Time for another fun evening of drawing. I don't know what. We'll find out together as we figure out what's going on. So let me just switch the view over here, and you can see my on my pad here. These are the random encounter tables we're going to use for the evening. So I'll jump on over to the die roller, and we will get started. There we go. So we're going to roll the dice. I can see already there's some weird lag in my video. Who can say why? I can't. I don't know whether you're seeing it or if it's just on my end, but if I look a little jumpy, sorry, nothing I can do about that. So here we go. I'm going to roll the dice once, twice, the third time is charm. One is our first who. And once or twice and third time, six. Six is our first what. So we'll come on back to the encounter tables, and we will go from here. As I see this weird choppiness in my video, in the past, sometimes, well, like right now it's looking smooth, so fingers crossed that was just a temporary thing. In the past, when that's happened, later on in the show, I've had connectivity problems. So if that happens, I'll tell you right now, my plan is, if that happens, to double check on my router and all that, turn everything off, restart it, and come back on. So you can come and find me watching live. This is, if you're watching the replay, it's already happened or it hasn't, and the video will be smooth throughout. So let's just not worry about that right now. We'll cross that bridge, as they say, when we come to it. So here we go. We've got our, we did our rolling. So we got one was a who is a mummy, and what is a mummy buying shoes. That is our first drawing for tonight. Hello, Michael. How you doing? All right, so we got a mummy buying shoes, which seems pretty straightforward. I'm trying to think of a funny angle to take on that. There's a lot of things you can play with a mummy, with Egyptian regalia, but Egyptian regalia for shoes was not was not particularly memorable, at least not to me. All right, so let's stop talking and get going with the drawing. All right, so we're going to have the mummy. Sitting down, I'm going to shrink that up so I have some more room to play around as we sketch. Hmm. Boy, I've done those in the wrong. Uh, uh, Never mind. Apparently my brain is not working today. Hello, Penny Firehorse. How are you today? Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. How's your finger doing? Um, Maybe I'll give the mummy high heels. I don't know why that seems funny to me, but it does. Not sure what the mummy would say about this. A nice pair of maybe ankle boots. She's certainly happy about it. They look pretty good. Just so early Empire. Like, do you have these in alligator skin? Do they come in alligator skin? That seems like maybe that's where I'll go with that. All right, so that's a pretty good outline. Let's make that bigger so it takes up more space on the page, and we can go with that. Yeah, I mean the trick there, and the trick very often for doing these kind of cartoons is to take your situation, make most of it normal, and then try to find the weird connection. Now, they're trying to find a connection. Just the mummy putting shoes on seems kind of weird, but trying to find a connection to uh, ancient Egypt. That's what I was trying to do there, and that alligator skin or crocodile skin. Guess alligator skin. It's got to be alligator because that's what we make shoes out of. Nile crocodiles, though. I don't know. Anyway, that's the little peek inside the creative bubble, and that's people ask you where your ideas, or people ask me where my ideas come from, and that's the kind of thing is they don't come from anywhere. Well, they come from doing that kind of exercise, right? You just take two ideas and put them near each other and see what you get. That's not right. I want that to be an asp or some kind of snake. Maybe we'll have a little bit of hair coming out. Here and there, like that. There we go. That's looking okay. Penny says, I'm good. My finger's on the mend. Good, good. Penny is a member of the local freelancer group that I'm in, and we've missed her these last couple of weeks because she had a little bit of surgery, which is always tough for anyone, but especially tough for an artist have some kind of finger surgery. It seemed from your reports, Penny, that everything had gone well. I'm glad to hear that that's in fact the case. And then the nice thing about drawing a mummy is you really basically just have to draw the silhouette of a person and not give any details, because you just fill it up with these bandage stripes. And you see part of that. I mean, if you make them all parallel like that, it looks like a bamboo tree. So what I do is I will first of all set them off on a little bit of an angle like this, and then make sure that I come back the other way, and then every once in a while a straight one in like that, and that's how I get the mummy-like look to these legs. I was going to make that a sexy leg, but that seems a bit off. No real reason. That I mean, I'm nothing against doing sexy drawings, but I want to make sure that I'm doing it for a purpose, and not just to say, "Ooh, look, I drew sexy woman. I objectified a female body for fun and profit." There we go. I've given her a nose. Very often, mummies, we draw them with they're completely desiccated. They're mummified, so she wouldn't really have a nose. Let me take that out of here. Oh, and I'm drawing on the stupid sketch layer again. Oh, I hate when I do that. Those boots were made for walking. That's right, Chris. They sure were. Usually, what I was about to say is usually you give a mummy that kind of, nose, but we wanted to look a little pretty. All right, what am I going to do? Am I going to just keep drawing? I'm not. Early enough in the process. Here's what I'm going to do. Often when I do this, I don't want to. I want to have my lines on a separate layer from my inks, and now I've drawn them, and I don't want to. I can't just erase them. But what I can do is alpha lock this, which means that it only draws on lines that have already been drawn. I go back to the blue that I do my sketching in, and then in the alpha lock, if I say fill layer, it will fill all the lines that have already been drawn with the color. Without the alpha lock, if I say fill layer, so turn off the alpha lock, without the alpha lock, if I fill layer, it fills the whole layer with the blue. But I don't want to do that. I only want to fill those lines. And in Procreate, alpha lock is the command that does that. So fill the layer, and now I can go back and go to the lines layer, and we'll draw that all again. But now I've got a really clear idea of what the lines are. There's no guessing. So that'll go a little quicker. I don't have to worry about lines I'm confident in. I am equally confident in all of these lines, because I already drew them. Now I in college I was part of my game group played a superhero game called Villains and Vigilantes. That was our big game. Even more than Dungeons and Dragons, we played Villains and Vigilantes. And being the cartoonist of the group, I would draw uh, cartoon versions of all of the characters. I'd design their superhero outfits. Everyone made up their own character, um, and they often would tell me what they were thinking about, but I would create um, their superhero, what their superhero looked like. And one of my friends was very into Egyptology, and so he had a couple of characters. His main characters always were uh, based on ancient Egypt. So I got a little bit of experience drawing things that are not historically accurate by any means, but felt thematically ancient Egyptian. And I'm taking advantage of that experience here in how I'm choosing to represent the headdress I decided to put on her, and some other things. So yes. Otherwise, very often when you come up with something that's from a particular culture, you've got to do a little bit of research uh, to find that line between reality and what little details you can put in to echo the um, culture that you're hoping to shine through in your drawing. You don't want this mummy. Like I said, I have this style that I've come up with for drawing the bandages. It helps me get that feeling on there. And I have a couple of little bits of ancient ancient Egyptian regalia that I can add on there. And all in all, it helps to sell that idea. This goes with um, the truism that I say all the time is you don't have to get it 100% right. You just have to not get it so wrong that the average viewer is going to look at it um, and say, no, that's not the way it goes. And that's how I feel about my ancient Egyptian stuff. Uh, Someone who really knows their stuff would say, well, I mean, that's not at all what it's like. But to the average viewer, it sells the idea. All right. Looking good. Now I need to have our shoe salesman here. And him, I'm really not even worrying about it. I see my sketch there is pretty much non-existent. I'm completely going from last minute inspiration here. That's okay too. I want to get a little, I want to get a little better at doing that in these kinds of drawings where I really do only the most basic sketch and then trust my instincts to finish the rest of it. There we go. Because, I mean, he doesn't really matter for this drawing. It's important that he's there so that we sell the idea that this is a shoe store, but the details on him don't matter in the least. He's just there for her to have someone waiting on her. How Egyptian, how royal Egyptian, eh? I see a bunch is going on in the chat. I don't know if I'm not answering things or if you guys are having a lot of fun talking to each other. I'll look up in a second and try and figure that out. There we go. I think his head's a little big. Again, that's because I didn't bother to sketch it out at all. Looking at it, not actually in the same scale with her, but that's all right. Okay. So she's going to be saying, I love it. I love him. I love it. Have you got a pair in alligator skin? No, this is... Now I'm worrying about getting that phrasing right. So that was too much. So she's going to instead say, come on. There we go. Ooh. And here's another thing that a lot of people, I mean, most people don't think about. When you're a cartoonist, you kind of have to think about how you stack up your word balloons, where they are. So even once I figured out what I want to say and how I paste them stacked within the word balloon has a real effect in how it's read. Ooh. Do they come in alligator skin? There we go. Then I can do this. Trust the app to create an actual regular oval. And now we can go in and add some colors. Turn off the sketch. See how that's looking. Looking pretty good. Alright, so we're going to come in here and I'm going to grab my gloaming brush that I like so much to do this crayon-y, markery effect. And, alright, so I'm going to start with the headdress, which I want to be green. Green is weirdly, green is a good ancient Egyptian color. Don't really think about that as a green place, but a lot of costuming, generic ancient Egyptian costuming, will have a lot of green in it. Let's maybe go with purple instead of red for the gem on the headpiece. And I'm going to go here back into green. I'm going to give her that gray or greenish gray skin that I often give to undead things. And the boots are going to, of course, be black. What other color would you have these boots in? I'm going to go back to that purple, and I'm going to use a shade of it for going around her eyes a little. And then, of course, our guy here, we're going to quickly get some skin tone onto him. And using my shape within a shape kind of style to give a little extra hint of contour and texture. And let me come back to the purple here. Now I'm going to do rather than shade color in his shirt, I'm going to make it a pattern. I'm going to give him a striped shirt. I mean, that's another way to avoid having the colors blow out so much. Just put in. Suddenly, the whole shirt seems more like it seems done. But all I did was put a few stripes on it. And then, I guess finally, we're going to come over here and. Oop. Sorry, I need to make that bigger again to do that. Use different colors for different sides of the box to emphasize the difference, and then maybe some pink tissue to the paper that inside it. Now, the thing I haven't done is do anything with the with her body, right? It's because it's wrapped. It's wrapped in mostly white gauze, but we can't just leave it like that. Because it just, I mean, look at that. Look, it just looks flat. Everything else has color. It looks flat and undone. So that's where, again, we're going to use our highlighting to create this idea of specificity. Again, it's the idea of specificity. We're not actually doing anything that's that specific. And give it a little bit of shape and texture. Look how much, I mean, honestly, look how much better that looks than it did before I added that. It looked flat and undone, and now it looks purposeful. Add a few extra things. I guess maybe I'll zoom out again. So most of these are the same kind of shading I do usually, right? Find the underside, put a line on the underside of the different shapes in the body. Now on top of that though, because she's got these bandages, I'm going to put an extra one under some of the bandage lines, which are not major shapes, but that helps to increase the feeling that it's not just that it's bumpy. Again, it's the texture idea. There we go. So what other things it probably need to do? A little darker pink in there. He could probably use some shading, just a little bit. He's, as I said before, he's not important in almost any way. He's just got to be there. And so he needs enough shading that he doesn't stand out for being so different from her. Done texture on her. He's got to get a little bit. But we don't really need to worry too much about it. Oh, but the shoes definitely need there we go. And I think I want to come back here. I don't know why this is now bugging me, but I've got to do a little bit with this chair. And I don't know why I'm feeling it's important to put a little shadow under the chair to just show, and even over here, something to show the floor. And now I can come back to my lines layer and my inking brush, and I can put a little stand here at the bottom. And I think we've got a pretty good cartoon of a mummy shoe shopping. Boop, 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 boop. All right, let's see what's going on here in the chat. Boots were made for walking. I think that's the last thing I read here. Yes, Chris says, "I'll take these shoes. Can I please get them wrapped up?" There would be a good gag in that too. Naya says, "Hey, I just recently found your channel. Can already tell that your content is great. I'd like to stick with you long term if you're willing to connect on Discord." Wow, yeah, that's totally a phishing scam. Sorry, Nao. Anyone on Discord wants to block them, they have my permission. We played Champions. Oh, yeah, Champions. I had friends that played. In fact, some of the people in our group also played in a Champions game. Champions was just more mechanical than I wanted it. Villains and Vigilantes is very. It's kind of modern in how loose it is. I'm noticing here that I didn't do anything on the headdress, and I want to do that. Villains and Vigilantes, very modern in its approach in that it was open and easy to adapt, and certainly it was the 80s. There were more rules than it really needed, and there was plenty of mechanics there, but man, I found it a real slog to play Champions. I wanted something that moved faster. Our V&V games always moved. The combat still took a long time because of all the hit points and how it worked. Because it was living in the era where everything had to fight like D&D fights. But Champions fights would take a whole night or 2 game sessions to go through. We could get through several fights a night in our Villains and Vigilantes game. Spam reported. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Suna's going to sleep now, but I want to... Oh, thank you very much, Suna. I'm glad that you could stop in and say hi. I hope you'll be able to come back sometime and, watch on replay if you like. My 11-year-old has a mummy joke that's slightly inappropriate. How is an Egyptian mummy similar to a fart? Well, they have a toot in common. Tell your 11-year-old I like his fart joke. Group we were in had a vampire ghost, a cowboy, so the hero system could accommodate all that. Well, yeah, you know what? We did a lot in Villains and Vigilantes. It could accommodate a lot. The difference was hero system and Champions had specifics for how you could do that. I always say that playing Villains and Vigilantes was my training in game design because the game was such that it was very easy to tinker with. A lot of new rule set, and we would tinker with it and make up new things. Like I said, we had Egyptian characters, we had vampires. I wanted to have a spellcaster, and V&V didn't really have a magic system, but I invented one, or I designed one together with one of the other GMs that worked with the system to create that. And so yeah, you could do a lot, but Villains and Vigilantes required you to get under the hood and create the mechanics and fine tune it. But it was pretty easily done. Champions gave you that. You could find a book that had these different things, and it would have the specific rules. And all depends on what you as a gamer are looking for. I don't have bad things to say about Hero System or Champions. The worst thing I have to say is it wasn't to my taste. Who the hell cares what my taste is other than me? Doesn't matter. I say my friends that played in my V&V game were also playing in the Champions game, and we all had fun, and we all got along. Villains Vigilantes was Jeff Dees? Yes, indeed. And it's still around. Mighty Protectors is the name of it now. The Villains and Vigilantes title is still tied up with the remnants of FGU, the company that published it originally. But the game itself has been shaken free in its basic design. He and Jack Herman got together and did an update which has a more robust point buy system for making your characters, instead of it being really kind of speaking of cowboys, Wild West loose the way it was in V&V. I like it. I like it a lot. Epic Rome says, having fun is all that matters. That is the truth. It's the undeniable truth that too often gets not given the importance that it deserves. All right, so I have one more sip and then we'll go on. We'll do another drawing. Let us come back here, and I will turn off round 1, turn on round 2, reset everything, and come back to the encounter tables. And now it's time for us to go and roll up a second encounter, random encounter. Let's see what the dice have to say. Once and twice, a third time. 6. 6 is our who. We know 6 is adventurers. Once and twice, a third time. 3. 3 is our what. So, come back to the table and see. 6, in fact, is adventurers. And 3 is janitor. Alright, so we have an adventure janitor. Let's see, Epic Rome says, first rule of role-playing is everyone have fun. Damn right. As I said before, 100%. By the way, hello, nice to meet you. We have friends in common, so I wanted to make sure. Well, thank you for stopping by. And let me know, say hi to our mutual friends. Alright, so we got adventurer, janitor. Alright, so I think I'm going to make it, usually when I'm picking just one of the adventurers, it'll be my my fighter guy. Those of you who are new here, I have characters that I've been using a lot, that I've used over the years for many different things, and it's you know what? Clear this out. This already is not working right. So I have a generic adventurer group. All right, so need to do this, and he's going to be pushing a broom. Alright, our janitor is going to be pushing a broom and whistling. Because I'm trying to figure out which leg is in front here, and I think that the leg that's going back is the one that's in front. So much about cartooning is about getting the posture right. So I want to have. I'm going to zoom in here. So I want to have. I want to be a little slope backed, just because of the doing a job. But then, really, this having the legs come out like this, and that's how I get this stance. Right? I want him to be doing that, and having figured that out, the rest of the piece can come together around it. But you want to do that because it, whether or not, you'll find out as you draw more and more that choosing the right posture will convey a lot about your character. When you get it wrong, it will convey the wrong things about your character, even if you get all the other details right. Posture is a thing that you can get wrong and have it. I don't really want to say ruin, but affect and undercut all the other things you're doing right. All right, so here, however, so I've got that posture, but I'm going to put him in armor because he is an adventurer. He's going to be sweeping up. Now, I guess the question is, what is he sweeping up? That's where our joke, in as much as there is any joke in this particular drawing, other than a guy in armor pushing a broom, it's going to be based on what he's sweeping up. And you guys can totally participate in figuring this out. That's what I like about making this whole project cooperative. Always see your dungeons cleaner than you find it. that's you know what? Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, what else have people got? So we can give him a little smile if he's doing that. He's happy in his work. I suppose down here we can have a skull in the trash and maybe some gold pieces. And what else could he be sweeping up in this? Monster. Oh, certainly we could have a disembodied hand. I like this. I like this as a concept. All right, so he'll be thinking, always leave the dungeon cleaner. Again, I'm worrying about how these are stacking up so they read well. Then you found it. Want cleaner to have its own line. So it's always leave the dungeon cleaner than you found it. And then this is not the kind of thing he says out loud, so that's the kind of thing he can think. We can give him a thought balloon. Like that. All right. Now, what do I want to change? Well, I want to, now that I originally had drawn him kind of meek and smaller than I usually do. I usually make him big and broad chested. He's my fighter character. But because he was a janitor, I took that out. I think I want to put that back in. There we go. That's enough. Let's start drawing. We'll come back here. Go to the lines layer, which if you were watching at the beginning, I failed to do on the other one. Gave myself some grief. And again, because I have drawn this guy 8 bazillion times in lots of different situations, I can very easily freehand some details onto him. And again, those of you who've watched the show before will certainly recognize this guy because he shows up all the dang time when I've got adventurers as the prompt. This guy and the elven wizard and the halfling rogue, halfling or gnome, I kind of switch back and forth with those. Yeah. Actually, I've got to go back to my sketch for a second because I've worked my arms out of position. By changing his body, and this kind of falls back to that draw the lines you're most confident in, right? It doesn't really matter because I'm working in the pencil stage. But if I'd been inking and I got this far and I realized that the lines weren't working together, look at how much I had to erase to make that work again. That's why you want to do a sketch that will lay down the basics and give you room to improvise. That sounded very jazzy. But there we go. That's working now. Looking good. Doing armor. I'm basically taking the breakdown of how you would do a body in a sketch and just using that as the segments for in the sketches you do that, and then when you're drawing usually, so let me just sketch in it. So if I was doing sketching, I'd draw like this, and the arm I would have the different parts. But when I drew the final part, I would ignore a lot of those connective lines to create a seamless whole. But when I'm doing this as armor, I want to keep them as the joints in the armor, like that. Get out of there. There we go. Again, I'm not sure how useful that information is to anybody else, but whenever I find myself doing something and I know why I'm doing it, I like to tell you. Alright, let's draw some of the junk that's in here. Like so. We've got, I like that, whoever it was in there that said severed monster parts, I like that. I think we'll make this more clearly a claw. And I'm going to use a lighter line to, because I want the rest of this to be, the dust and dirt that is getting swept up. Only the important bits get full on heavy line treatment. The rest of it gets a lighter line. You should, if you're going to practice drawing, spend some time thinking about that in every drawing. What's important? The things that are important should get the heavier lines. And you can often add a lot of extra detail without confusing the picture if you get your line weights right. Alright, looking good. Let's put in the text here. Always leave the dungeon cleaner. I'm going to put that heavier on its own line and in heavier text. Then you found it. And we're going to make a thought balloon. Like so. And I think we've got ourselves a good drawing. I'm going to turn off the sketch and see what we've got. See if anything needs... Well, we probably do need to add some more details in there. It's a little bare. The color is going to cover a lot of this, but I think it's just helpful. I want the line drawing itself to be to do as much of the lifting as possible. All right, there we go. That's looking good. All right, so we're going to switch back to the gloaming brush again. And we'll start with the skin tone because make sure you go to the color layer. Make sure things are going on the right layer. And we'll put that in there. This is about the only skin tone we've got. I'm going to go to a dark brown for the beard. Sometimes I give him black hair, sometimes I give him dark brown hair. Depends on the drawing. And now we're going to do the thing I talk about with the armor. I was talking about the design earlier, but when I've drawn them, I said before, I will, when I'm need to color, particularly when I need to color quickly with the armor, I pick the color theme that I'm using. And usually it's a blue-gray. And then I create 3 distinct colors, and I assign them to things that have about the same hardness. So in armor, you've got things like the shoulder pads that are very hard, or shields are very hard. You've got the parts like what's covering the arm has got to be loose and meshy to some degree. It's got to be able to move it. And so I will make the harder things a darker blue, and the softer things usually a lighter blue, sometimes even just a different blue. And then the connective bits, like the belts and the joints, will get their own color too. So here's what I'm talking about. I'm going to start with that. That's going to be our body color. So that all is clearly of one type. And I'm going to say that the shoulder pads is probably built of the same thing that is. Same thing, probably the boots. The boots are going to be about the same. Or most of the boots, anyway. Not so much the gloves, though the greaves, the wrist areas, maybe the part over the main hands, the palm of the hands. But the fingers are going to have to be flexible. So we're going to come here. We're going to go to a different blue. Now I can do this. Usually if you keep this little circle in around the same area, you can get variants that seem like the same color. The farther you pull it off, the more different it gets. So you can do that, or you can take the color wheel and drift it away a bit. I'm going to do that. Okay, so weirdly, despite what I said earlier, I am choosing to make the flexible parts darker. Which really just goes to show that you can do it however you want. It'll work as long as you are consistent within the drawing itself. No one's going to question you. Alright, so now we've got at least 2 different kinds. And now I'm going to go to a different kind of blue. I'm going to pull that over there. And this is also a gray, same area within the larger circle, but because we're talking about a different blue, you can see that it for sure stands out as different. And by mixing these 3 colors, that's how I get the feeling of a piece of a suit of armor. Alright, so let's see, we're going to need a green for this claw, and some gold for the coins, and some light gray for the dust that we're kicking up. Now we're going to go into shading. Again, the kind of like I was talking about with the mummy, the skull, which is going to be mostly white, looked like we were ignoring it until we put a couple of those in, and now it seems to... Oh, you weren't just ignoring it. It's supposed to be white. All right. Go to the hand. That's the wrong color. Come on. I don't want the black. I want the green. Yeah, these grays still work the same way as anything else when it comes to shading. Find the color, go slight difference, or if you're working in colored pencil, just press harder and you'll get that it'll feel like you've got a darker color. Alright, looking good. I see again that there have been some conversations going on while I've had my head down, so we can get caught up in a second. Again, I'm going to put a little shadow on the ground just to emphasize the fact that it's there, just to show him doing his sweeping up after his mopping up, as it were. Okay. Always leave the dungeon cleaner than you found it. Now, I suppose if I wanted to have a little extra detail in the background, I could pick a tone of gray or green, maybe green. We've done a lot of blues here. Let's pick kind of a gray-green. And in the background, I'm going to put a line there, and then draw just a couple of things that look like bricks. I don't have to show the whole wall, but if I put a few of them back here at various points across the background, the whole thing is going to feel like I spent more time, or I created a background for this that I never did. What did this add? An extra minute and a half to the drawing? But it... What do I want to say here? Very often when you're... when I see young artists or people that want to be artists, they will come up to me, or they will have portfolios, or even online portfolios, where all they have are the characters, right? It's just character sketches. And I understand that. When I'm drawing, that's all I'm drawing too. It doesn't have a scene. Why do I want to spend so much time putting in the background? But for an art director, and I know maybe you guys too, look, I've just added those bricks, but it makes this feel like a much more complete drawing. It added almost no time to it, but the implied presence of a location changes the viewer's feeling about the piece entirely. Becky says the piece of wall, they anchor the reality. They give it a context. It's another way to say the same thing. They anchor the reality of the place. They give it a context that it didn't have otherwise. Otherwise, it was just this character kind of floating in space, which is fine. It doesn't. It just does something for the brain. It lets you. It just makes it feel more consequential. Anyway, what I need to do now, though, of course, is to come back and go to my inking brush and my lines layer and put in a stand, because we have done an adventurer a janitor. Badoop, badoop, badoop. Woo! I'm on a roll. Okay, let's see. Let's come back and see. Always leave a dungeon cleaner than when he found it. That clearly I'd read it before because I stole it for the picture. I mean, you inspired it for the picture, Michael. Good job. Body parts. Where else am I streaming? Okay, so I am streaming. This is going out live immediately to YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and LinkedIn. Those are the places it's streaming. Afterwards, if you try real hard, you can find it on Facebook. But the place to reliably be able to view previous episodes is on YouTube. So I encourage everyone to go there. In fact, it would. I don't say this enough. It would really be helpful to me if you're watching, if you subscribe to the channel and hit the likes and all the other things that people say. YouTube. I had, those of you who've been around know, in the spring, my old YouTube channel crashed out, got taken away. It's gone. I'm building a new one, and I'm trying to get my subscribership back up. So I don't do a lot. I do 2 shows a week and random other things. You're free to ignore them if you want, but it would really be helpful to me if you could click subscribe. Click the subscribe bell. I would thank you. Dale Donovan. Hello, Dale Donovan. Glad you could make it tonight. Hopefully, Cindy is there too. Hello, Cindy. Linnea says blue can be tricky. Blue can be very tricky. Hello, Linnea. Glad you could make it in your mid-evening break. Casey Budd. Casey, you found us. Hey, yes, it's Casey's birthday today. Let's everyone wish Casey a happy birthday. Happy birthday to you, Casey. Trying to find me on Twitch. On Twitch, I am. It's The Real Stanex is the name of my Twitch channel, which I think is now also the name of my my YouTube channel. So they're the same. Okay, let's go on. Let's do one more, and then we can call it a night. And have another sip of my lovely, lovely Coke Zero. Also not sponsored. And then I'll come back here and close out round 2. Open up round 3. And turn back on the random encounter charts. And we're going to go... Now we're going to go back to the dice. And we're going to do it one more time. We're going to go one more time and do another drawing. So here we go. Once or twice a third time, 4. 4 is our who. And once or twice third time, 5. 5 is our what. 4 and 5. So come back and see that 4 is a barbarian. So we've got another, adventurer type class. Barbarian and a barbarian cake decorator. That's got some humor attached to it. All right. So I'm going to come back here. I've got my sketch layer on, the right pen, the right color, and we're going to have a Barbarian cake decorator. Um, so I'm trying to think. Honestly, what I'm thinking about is how I want to draw the cake more than the Barbarian, right? Because a lot of times we could have just a little kind of cake like this, and then do something weird with what's going on with the piping. We could have like a wedding cake, like a big tiered wedding cake. It doesn't have to be a wedding cake, but that style of big tiered cake. And then the Barbarian could be going crazy over here with the piping, something like that. Um, I think that I'm leaning towards that, a big multi-tiered cake. So now the gag is at our Barbarian. Um, I don't know. So I've got several things going through my mind. The idea we really want something um, to to be inappropriate. Right? That's where the humor often will come from. So we got a big cake. Let's start by putting the big tiered cake down. Right, that's what our Barbarian is going to be. Icing up. Um, right, again, I'm going for, so I'll zoom in here. I could, normally you'd have a table and a cake, and you'd have your chef standing next to it. What I want to do, I was talking earlier about posture. I want to get a good posture, so I'm immediately bringing my Barbarian in at a sideways angle to show that he's in big motion. Right, that's going to be his leg as he's doing that. This arm is going to come around here, and this hand's going to come here, and we're going to have a piping bag. We're going to have the piping bag with piping, icing coming out all over the place. But there's a posture for that, right? We've got a body moving sideways. We've got one arm coming in front, the other coming set, the leg going there, so we can have our Barbarian in motion. And then, of course, we can have big wild hair. Conan wild hair. And a chef's toque. But the chef's toque should be going off at that weird angle too. Now, I'm trying to figure out where the punchline on this gag is. Is it that he can't spell the thing that is going on the cake? Is it that it's something completely inappropriate? Is this a rage cake? I don't know. What do you think? Any ideas out there? So I think that image-wise, no matter what it is, this is the image we've got. We've got the Barbarian and the cake. Let me grab it here. We can zoom out. That's what the image is. This is hard spreading icing with a bastard sword. It it is. There is another good gag that would require me redrawing this, so I'm not going to use it. I will say only that that is a good gag, but I've invested too much time into this icing bag rather than a sword. Um, all right, I'm liking how that is looking. I don't know. I don't know. I'm toying with things and nothing's coming immediately. I'm also trying to figure out whether I want to do a puffy toque. I think it's just going to be one of those, the kind you find in a high-end restaurant, where it's just the serving hat. It's really just a big tubular. I don't know. When I draw that, it doesn't seem to cut it. Again, it doesn't have to be right, but it has to convey the message you want it to. When someone who hasn't been part of this conversation looks at it. Oh, epic Rome's. Really? Really? Oh. Oh. So here's what I'm thinking right now. If I zoom this out so he's not taking up the whole thing anymore, I can put the table over here and have another couple of... Now here I'm making this more complicated. This is the gag I would go for. And it's just going to be one of saying, do you want to tell him that's not how you spell the groom's name? Do you want to tell him? Yeah, I mean so this guy would say, that's not how you spell the groom's name. And this guy would say, do you want to tell him? And I think that's what I'm going to do. Let's go for it. Enough wasting time. That's the thing here on the show is we want to do it all quickly. We want to do it all and we want to do it quickly. Quickly is more important than better. I'm not trying to do something that I can sell. I'm not trying to do something that'll win awards or this. In fact, these are. I often say this is kind of like a play version of where coming up with the ideas that I do sell. If I was doing this for the purposes of getting ideas to sell, I draw this what I have here in my notebook, and I'd be happy. I'd leave it, and then I could come back later and refine it. But here, because I'm doing this as a show, and it's going to live on the internet, and people can come back and look at it later. I'm to some degree, I I tend to forget that I want to just do this quick and get it done. I'm trying to get it better and make a finished product out of it, and it's not, and it shouldn't be. This is just for fun, and it's also not the lesson I want you folks who are coming here. Those of you that are coming here because you want to learn about drawing, or you're just getting started doing drawing too. I want to make sure the lessons that I'm imparting there are that it's it's a good thing to just be loose and have fun. Let it happen. And then if you want to later, you can come back and make something nice out of it. Like I say, I've made a bunch of stickers out of drawings that started here, but none of them are the drawings I did here. I always redid them. There we go. This is our Barbarian pastry chef. That's, instead of Bavarian, Barbarian. All right, now here I want to. I spent a lot of time kind of playing with this, but now I want to be sure that I get this idea that he's splooching out the icing. Right, okay. In fact, I want to have the cake itself feel like it's rocking and being decorated in a violent kind of way. This idea that it's almost bleeding. Bleeding icing! There we go. Now I've got to draw these other guys. I've made my decision, and I've done no sketching on them. Now I suppose, and I'm learning my lesson from the shoe salesman that I did earlier. That if I could just kind of do these without uh, without any sketching, but the chances are that something about them would look wrong, and I don't want that. We don't have to have a lot of detail. They don't need a posture. In fact, I'm specifically doing with them exactly the opposite of what I said with the Barbarian. I don't want them to draw too much attention to themselves. I'm just going to have them standing there with their arms at their sides. I'm going to take a smaller brush size. All right. These characters here are a combination of other things I talk about also. They're made up of basic shapes. He's got a rectangular shaped head. I'm not worrying about anything beyond that. And then I guess the two things that I talk about that you can see from these is I'm using, and she's got just an oval shaped head. Don't worry about more than that. And then all the times I talk about having a collection of noses or mouths that you've practiced enough that you can just pull them out of your hat, as it were. So I'm using the basic shapes and the basic expressions that I've practiced and done so many times that I can just do them again without even thinking very much. There we go. That's about all we need for them. And then I come back up here and say he's going to be saying that's not how the groom spells his name. Again, I'm paying particular attention to how those lines break up. That's not how the groom spells his name. See how that's how you'd say it. That's kind of the pacing that you get when you say it. So that's how I want to make sure I break it up on the line, on the word balloon. Now, the question is, say, do you want to tell him, or I'm not going to tell him? It's, no, here we go. So, again, thinking about that spacing out, I want it to be, I'm not going to tell him. And now, having done this a little weirdly, that's at a weird angle, I'm going to use the fact that I can grab it and rotate it a little. then move it over here so that I can put a circle around it. Again, let the app create the word balloon for me. I just have to know roughly what I want it to be like. So I'm not going to tell him. Even with that, it's not working out especially well. What am I going to do here? I'm going to make it a little bigger. There we go. And it fills up the space a little better. I also am going to want to center that I'm. Why am I worrying about this? Just because I made a point of it earlier. It doesn't really. Again, from that sketch perspective, none of that matters. All right, what else? Oh, I want him to be in motion. I want to give him a lot of heavy motion lines to show that he's going crazy. Even a couple on the cake. There we go. All right, when I turn the sketch off, we see that things are looking pretty good. I want to add a few details in here and there, but some more extra lines on his arm as opposed to what I was doing with the mummy or even these other chefs. Oh, I put too many little dots on the cake. Let's just get rid of those entirely. Because he's not wearing anything, I want to have some extra detail on his skin, showing where muscles will bulging, or it just doesn't. It shouldn't look smooth the way these guys in their chef aprons, their chef smocks look. All right, there we go. So let's do some colors and then wrap this up. Go back to my gloaming brush, and for his skin tone. So as you see here, I have one generic Caucasian skin tone there that I use almost all the time. Everyone, if you're using things, a pencil or a paint, or these swatches of color, you've got that. You've got the colors you're using. And so I've got the one pink Caucasian color. If I'm doing someone who's, I haven't done a lot, and I probably should do more, of different ethnic background characters who are clearly of different ethnic background, I will hand select, go and pick a color off the color wheel. But I have here in my selections, there's a thing down here in the lower right called palettes. I have, if you see down here, the one towards the bottom, just underneath where I am now, I've got a palette here of, what is that, 30 different skin tones, ranging from very pale to very dark. These are all things that I've either used on other drawings or I've picked up from drawings or paintings other people have done. And I've created this palette of skin tone, so I can go in to grab them. What I want here, again, thinking about Conan, I want a skin tone that is, you know, I'll add it up here at least temporarily. That is swarthy, I think is the word I'm looking for. Conan the Cimmerian. He's a desert nomadic kind of guy. He's a guy that's uh, been out in the sun too long, tan. Permanent tan from having lived a life as a barbarian. So I'm picking that color here. And we're going to use a faux black, the dark blue faux black that I use all the time. What else? We need a gold for his armband, and we need a fur for the loincloth and the boots. We need that gold also for his bracer, his wrist bracer. There we go. Now, the piping bag is going to be a blue-gray. And I think we'll have pink for the icing. I'm going to come back to our other people. We're going to give them our standard pasty pink Caucasian skin. And she's going to be kind of a redhead. And he's going to be generic mousy brown hair. Got a lot of things that are white here. I mean, all of their hats and the cake and that. So what we're going to do is use different colors to do the highlights. They're going to get a bright blue to give their outfits a clean look. I want them to seem clean, and they're food prep professionals. They've got to look clean. Meanwhile, he's not quite so clean, so I'm going to pull that to a more gray blue. I was thinking of actually maybe making it a bit of a brown. And then our cake, I'm going to do a light pink to go with that, the pink that's on the rest of the icing, the piping icing. But, as I often will say, these now look like three separate colors, like the main body of them. This, let me come back and switch to a black or a dark blue so I can, like, this color and this color and this color look different because of the highlights you give it. But we know that they're all the same, as even this color and this color. It's all the same, but by giving them a little bit of highlight, you trick the eye into reading the whole thing as a separate color. All right, just do a little bit of highlighting here. We're going to highlight the piping bag a bit. We're going to do a little bit of shadow on our Barbarian. Again, everywhere we've given that idea that there is a detail, a muscle popping out, that is a good spot to create a little bit of shadow. Oh, look in here, I didn't give this other bracer color. But speaking of which, we need a little color, a little shadow for the bracers. And the loincloth. I don't think they need it. I don't think the cake needs it. Although, no, I think the icing could use it. The cake, we've already done it with that light pink. Is the shadowing, is the shading. But the icing, particularly these places that we want to make them seem like they're wildly in motion. There we go. I'm staring at it now. Maybe his hair too. There we go. I'm staring at it. I'm wondering if maybe I'm going to try dropping the opacity about 5%, 10%. 10% is too much. I got so good. That dark skin was starting to create it was just too intense. The color of it I chose. So by dropping the opacity, I'm letting more white up through it and dropping the intensity while still keeping it that dark kind of swarthy, again, use the word swarthy, color. So I'm now free to come back to my top layer and stick a stand at the bottom because we have the Barbarian cake decorator. Whoop. Beep boop boop boop. Barbarian cake decorator. All right, let's see what's going on in the chat. Barbarian cake decorator is a subclass D&D has been missing for 50. Yeah, maybe someone should write up the Barbarian cake decorator. Oh dear, that's funny. I'll bring that to my friend Owen KC Stevens. He likes to do quick little things like that. Maybe I'll get him to write up a Barbarian cake decorator, and then we can use this as some of the art and sell it as a PDF. Thanks for the cake. Thanks for the fish. No more weddings for grog. Yes. Julia Childs looks PO'd. Wow, yeah, no, I can't imagine Julia Childs facing off against Conan here. Now we know what Bridezilla means. You guys are having a funny night tonight, Chris. You're hitting. Buttercream, more like butter smash. What else have we got? Chris says, I really like this drawing. Well, thank you very much. Yes, so it's another thing I'm looking at right now, and I'm thinking is it's a good example of you don't have to draw the whole thing. I mean, look at from that Barbarian, we clearly see that arm. We got a good expression on his face. The rest is a posture, which is implied basically because we can't see it. But it's you need to be able to know how you would draw it in order to do that. But if you can show the right posture and the right pieces, again, that's another thing that the viewer's brain is filling in the rest of it. I like how this one came out too. Okay. This has been a fun night. It's been a good night. But it's time to wrap it up. So, have one more sip and then I'll do my outro and we'll call it an evening. There we go. Barbarian cake decorator. That's our third drawing for the evening. Came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Everyone in the chat gave really good suggestions. There's a lot that could have been done. A lot of jokes that could have been done. And you guys found some good ones. Unfortunately, it's my show and I just do the ones I like. So that was our last one. We, of course, also had Adventurer Janitor. And we started off tonight with Mummy shoe shopping. So we've got three pretty funny cartoons tonight. I don't know that any of these are drawings that I would eventually use for a sticker the way some other ones. Sometimes we'll get a drawing, I'm like, oh, I got to pick that up and reuse it as a sticker. They're all, they're definitely cartoons as opposed to standalone illustrations. You need the words and the whole thing to get them. But that's not bad. It's just a different thing. And I think we hit... I feel lucky if we get one good one a week. If I get one good one a week for this show. And I think together we got 3 good ones this week. So good job, audience. Thank you all. Speaking of the audience... Thank you for being here with me tonight. Epic Realms and Chris Andrew and Michael in chat. And Dale was here for a while. And Penny was here for a while. Becky still, I think she's still here. Who else? I'm scrolling back. Oh, Casey Butt, of course. Happy birthday to Casey Butt. Thank you for joining us tonight. It was Linnea. Linnea popped in for a while. Always good to see you. I had a very good time tonight, even better than usual, and so with a big smile on my face, that I say thank you all for joining me. I hope that you will be back next week. I hope that you had a good time too, and that maybe you did some drawing of your own. And if you haven't done it now, maybe now that I'm going to hang up and go away, you've got the rest of the evening ahead. Grab a piece of paper, draw, go have a good time, enjoy yourself. And I'll see you next week here on another episode of Random Encounters. Till then.